for South Korea's Un Jung. He tasted defeat his last time out for the first time since 2015. The win streak is over, and he takes on the former RFA light heavyweight champion, Brown Bear Devin Clark, a man who, in his last fight, got brutally beaten up by the professional Azamat Murzakanov. And if you look at it for Devin Clark, you know him for his offensive wrestling. He can struggle definitely at some points of his fights, but for both of these guys, they very much have like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type performances in their careers. I mean, for Un Jung, you look at it in the UFC, he submits Khadas Ibrahimov, he goes out there and knocks out Mike Rodriguez, he has a split draw against Sam Alvey, he beats William Knight, and he beats Kenny Nzechukwu. And let's just look at the two performances. William Knight, he out-wrestles him. Fight against Kenny Nzechukwu, close the distance. They're both tall guys, right? We're going to hand fight, start landing some elbows standing, knocks him out. And then his last time out against Dustin Jacoby, Jacoby's bouncing on the outside. He lands a double jab right hand and completely drops down Jung, who kind of protested the stoppage when he got right back up. But he got up, and then he started walking towards the fence. That's never a good sign, so good stoppage there. But for Un Jung, like even his fight against Sam Alvey, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, first two rounds, Sam Alvey outstrikes him. Third round, he drops Sam Alvey. There was a case Alvey won that fight. And I'm not even overplaying it. So for Jung, the best fighter that we see is a guy that can wrestle offensively, that can utilize really good boxing, maybe an inside low kick, decent takedown defense, good offensive wrestling. Like, Un Jung's a very well-rounded fighter. It's just a matter of which guy we get. And for Devin Clark, like, we saw him go out there 2 fights ago. He got a pretty good win against William Knight where he finished him. That one was at heavyweight because Knight just had a hard time making light heavyweight. And Clark looked amazing. And then against Azamat Murzakanov, somewhat of a similar guy that can mix in his wrestling with his striking, Clark had 0 answers. So another camp for Clark, not at Jackson Wink MMA, but at Elevation. We'll see how that plays in if this fight goes a little bit longer into the 3rd round. But for Clark, I'll be interested to see what we get because out of his striking, he's a very low volume guy at range that likes to throw hammers to then close the distance to get the fight down to the mat.
I do like his leg kicks when he stands all the way on the outside. It's a bit of an underutilized part of his game. If he threw a lot more, it would be nicer to see because one of the first things that stands out when you see Devin Clark, he has massive thighs. And when he throws his leg kicks, they're extremely damaging. But it's one of those things where they'll kind of float in and out of his volume to where you'll really notice them at some points, then you won't notice them at all during others. Clark has fought the higher level of competition, though, definitely throughout his UFC tenure, but it'll be really interesting, because Un Jung's one of these guys who the highs are very high, but every time you really want to believe in him as a prospect, he kind of gives you reason to have a little bit of pause. Like the Sam Alvey fight, like you had said, that was a very competitive back and forth fight, and everybody going into that matchup had fully expected Un Jung to just run over Sam Alvey. Like, that was not a prime Sam Alvey at any point. And for Jung, I like his striking, but it is at a bit of a unique range, because he is good at boxing, he's good at that in close, but a lot of his weapons are catered more towards that long range striking, and that's why he finds himself almost kind of in this bit of a tweener. He's like John Collins. He's like a tweener between a forward and a center. So for Un Jung, if he finds himself over wrestling, I think that could be a really bad thing in this fight, because I don't think he's going to out wrestle Devin Clark, especially not throughout 5 rounds or throughout 3 rounds, because Devin Clark has gotten ready for guys who are going to go out there and wrestle him a lot more than Un Jung normally would. So I do favor Clark with the wrestling. I just worry about his striking defense, because every Devin Clark fight, he's got a bloody nose, he's got multiple teeth coming out. Like, there's always some kind of serious injury with Devin Clark in his face, and I always worry about his striking defense. I like the totality of his game. He has a very well-rounded light heavyweight. It's just he has such a big weakness with that striking defense that you wonder when it's going to give.
Similar opponents for both these guys, Mike Rodriguez and, oh boy, William Knight. Both guys are able to get wins over those guys. But when you look at a matchup like this, Matt, it's kind of like that album that came out in 1984, Big Bam Boom. You're out of touch, I'm out of time. I think for the guy that loses this fight, I think it's it. Like, Un Jung loses 2 fights in a row. Maybe they keep him around. Devin Clark loses 2 fights in a row.
Tough, yeah.
I think they get rid of them because, I mean, for Clark, he's 7-7. He won the RFA belt, and then a couple of months later, he goes out and fights Alex Nicholson, a guy who looks like everything. Very red, very large, beard. Alex Nicholson went out there and knocked him out in the first round. And yes, you said it. Devin Clark's fought the higher level competition. His losses are to Nicholson, Blachowicz, Rakic, Span. And then if you look at the last couple, Anthony Smith, Iwan Kutsilaba, and the professional, Azamat Murzakanov. For Jung, Again, a tough loss to Dustin Jacoby, who I thought was able to go out there and win his last time. And the draw against Sam Alvey, it is tough. So you're out of touch, you're out of time. I have a hard time trying to gauge both these guys. My picks are kind of all over the place when they fight, whether it's right, whether it's wrong. The odds in this one, Un Jung is more than a 2-1 favorite in this fight, which is kind of weird. And we have a look at the topology votes. Surprised us there to you. I'm going to say the fans go with Jung anyway, because again, the highs are so high.
Yeah.
But the lows are very low. I'm going to say over under 80% Jung.
I think they'll be under.
I think they're going to be under. They're over. 1,021 total votes. 89% Jung. 21% by decision. 70% by knockout. For the 11% that have Clark, 59% by decision. Matt, when Devin Clark fought Azamat Murzakanov, I remember vividly. This is my hipster pick, and I picked Devin Clark. And you picked Devin Clark. And everybody ragged on us for like weeks. And
They're
said,
right to.
I can't believe you guys. You're so stupid. Before the fight even happened, and then they really, really ragged on us. Your credibility's gone because you picked one fight wrong. I thought Devin Clark had that advantage, that motor. I thought elevation was going to help him. And he was a sitting duck for Murzakanov.
Let's take the L every now and then. I thought Devin Clark was going to look great. He got destroyed his last time out.
Yeah, and he looked amazing the fight before against
William
William Knight.
But both of those things can be true. It's just like Murzakanov really impressed me the last time out, but the same thing can be said for Un Jung. Like, he lost to Dustin Jacoby. He's a really good fighter in this weight class. He's very technical, has very heavy hands. So I even think with Jung, just because he lost to a good fighter his last time out, doesn't mean he completely discredited him.
No, so in this matchup, Matt, I mean, for Un Jung, last time he was out there, he got finished. That was back in July, so plenty of time to get ready for this one. For Devin Clark, his last time out was back in August. So both guys with a lot of time to clear the cobwebs, kind of make right on the game plan. Again, I guess I go with the highs of highs, and I'll pick Un Jung to get the win. It would have been a hometown fight or somewhat close to home representing Daegu out of South Korea. The card was supposed to be in Seoul, so I'll go with the man at a Korean top team in Un Jung. I like the boxing and the fact that he has good takedown defense. The only guy that was able to take him down was Hadis Ibrahimov, who went 1 of 6 on takedown attempts in that fight, and that's it. So I do like Jung in this one. We'll see how Clark's able to adjust with that motor in the wrestling. But again, the strike differential. Un Jung, 4.05 to 3.81 for a plus 0.24 strikes absorbed to, or landed to absorbed. For Devin Clark, 2.94 to 2.86. That's below UFC average in both category, but he doesn't throw a lot from the outside, and sometimes when you can outstrike him on the outside, it really kind of dissuades him from going for the takedown. So if Jung's able to do that, and I think he'll be able to win this fight.
I like Jung in the matchup, but this is one of those weird fights where Devin Clark could go out there and potentially out-wrestle him. I could see that being an option, because Clark does have all that experience, and that is going to pay off at a certain point. I think Jung is the much more damaging striker, though, and like I said, we've seen Clark eat a lot of big shots on the inside and on the outside throughout his fight, so I do favor Jung, especially in this fight on the feet.
Matt, assuming it'll be the scar tissue that I wish you saw for Un Jung, landing those boxing combinations on Devin Clark. Both of us going with Jung to get the win. Big-time matchup in the main event in the rebooking of Derek Lewis versus Moldova's Sergey Spivac. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.